Hello. So this is something that's been happening. If I set the headset down for a while, it does the screen off, and usually when you pick it back up, it turns right back on. But it hasn't been doing that. The screen has been staying off, and I've had to restart the headset every time. That's really annoying. I can't close the weather, that little weather window that comes up. I'm sure you guys can see it right there. Like, no matter where I put the mouse, sometimes it's a little bit off. Oh, there we go. Spoke too soon. All right, I should probably do the intro and what we're doing today. So we are looking at AMD systems. So what I have for the computer is a 9900X paired with a 7900 XTX. And yes, it would be better to have the 9800X 3D in there for the CPU, but I don't have it. So the 9900X is sitting in, and I think it's going to do just fine. Yes, there is a little bit of performance gap there, but in VR, I believe we're going to be heavily limited by the GPU in this, so I don't think it's going to matter. Now we're good. Perfect. Okay, so VR. I would like to test out a couple different settings in VR and see what kind of performance that we can get from the sim. We are sitting in Innsbruck. We're going to be flying the Bonanza here. It's just a random combination of plane and airport. This is one of my favorite airports, and it's one that I'll be using for a lot of these videos just because I think it looks so amazing. And I gotta tell you, walking around, let's find the keys here and then walk around. Like, just walking around in the sim is such a cool thing. Yes, you could move around in 2020, but it's built for this time. And I hear a plane taking off, not taking off, starting up. Kind of sounded like that. Anyway, yeah, you just have more to look at. There's more visual, goodies to find. And I will say that airports in general are just a little bit better. Like looking at the signs, you can see I'm looking at it now. I can read the sign perfect, and it was always a challenge to get the airports right. You had add-ons that you would install, you would purchase and install, and then if you had an update, things would crash and not work right. All of your updates would have to be moved out and put back in if they're from different places, if they're not from the marketplace. It was challenging. So having this level of visual pleasure right out of the box is fantastic, and it'll only get better from here. People can build off of this. So as a starting point, it's great. Like I mentioned in the previous video when we were talking about the motion platform, if you guys do have a motion platform, go ahead and check that video out. Like I was saying in that, the sim had a lot of problems. Of course, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about how terrible it was during launch day. And it was. We had a lot of problems. But that shouldn't take away from the work that's been done in this sim and the state that it's in now that it's up and running and people can actually experience it. Yes, there's still a lot of issues and there's things that we have to work through. Of course. Well, with every game, there's going to be patches that come out and updates that come out to make things better. It's the same thing with this. And taking on a global challenge for a simulator and making the globe look good, well, it's really hard. We are talking about AMD performance now with the 7900 XTX and 9900X. And as we can see, I can't actually see it, but you guys should be able to see my FPS right now on the ground. So I'm going to take this off so I can look real quick. And we are sitting at a pretty horrible 20. And you can notice that when you look around. Like if I go fast like this side to side, I can see the black bars coming in. That frame rate is terrible, but man, it looks great. This is a great view right here. The detail in the runway, the detail that you can see in this airport and off in the distance is incredible. So let's go ahead and look at the settings that I have right now, and we'll try to make some improvements to get things to work a little smoother. So if we head into our settings, it's not the best way to see this because it's a little bit lower resolution and kind of far away, but I'll attempt to make it a little bit closer here. So if we go into VR, go into VR graphics, and then I do have world scale set at 107. You know, something around there feels right. I'm using OpenXR right now, which does seem to be working with 2024, with a resolution set at 3500 by 4142. That was best for 2020, and you'll see a lot of these settings are carried over from Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 for VR. I can thank VR Flight Sim guy Steve for setting these or getting these settings up and doing a bunch of videos on that. You follow along with his videos and you can pretty much match these settings. Or you can look at this video here. It does mirror his settings, which seem to work pretty good. So like objects, level of detail down to 90. A lot of these are set low, medium, or off because it doesn't really play a huge role in how things look, but it will impact your FPS. So those are the settings that I'm using right now with TAA. And we have a couple options here. In OpenXR, I am, like I said, forcing the resolution and also using turbo mode to try to bump everything up a little bit. So the options that we have are to decrease our render scaling or our terrain level of detail. We can lower those down to get a little bit more, or we can use something like FSR2, or if you have the Pimax, the Crystal Light, you can use their version of super sampling of like DLSS and FSR. You can use their version to upscale right in their software without having to do anything else here. So you can keep it on TAA with all of your settings, go into the Pimax Play software and change it there. Does everything for you. So we'll go through all those. I'm gonna load up the flight here and take off and see how the performance is once we take off. And then we'll try those other two options. And in the end, we'll finally tweak things to try to keep TAA without upscaling and see how much of a hit we have to take to our level of detail and how it looks. Try to clip him with the wing here. Hey, he's walking out with me. No, 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 no. Oh. Like I mentioned before, it looks fantastic, but is pretty terrible for the smoothness, the choppiness, everything. All right, nice and straight. Because I do need to take this off, I don't have the frame rates in the headset right now. So I'm going to take this off occasionally to look at the screen so I can see what we're running at. And it looks like 22. 22 is not great. That is not great at all. And I believe that as we get up higher, you might see 30. There is quite a bit of difference between on the ground and when you're up high in the air, but doesn't matter. That is unacceptable. It looks pretty awesome though. And me personally, I don't mind the stuttering, like when you look around, because I like to look around nice and slow. I'm usually in slow airplanes or airliners. I don't mind if my headset drops down to 20 and then back up to 30 as you get higher. That's acceptable for me. It is probably not acceptable for the majority of people though. I want the absolute highest possible visual fidelity while I'm flying around and while I'm on the ground. So I'm okay with that cut or that hit to frame rates and the stuttering and the issues that come with it. Personal choice, and you may agree with me. You might want that as well. So once we get up a little bit higher here, let's see, 23, 24, that's a little bit better. It is a lot smoother. Like when you're looking around, the black bars coming on the sides are getting a little bit smoother. All right. So now what we're going to do is reset, go back to the ground, and then we will try using FSR2 and see what kind of frame rates we get. And one thing to note, I have not overclocked anything. Everything is stock right now with the 7900 XTX and the 9900. I haven't done any overclocking whatsoever, but my system is water cooled on a loop, a custom loop. So it can handle a little bit of overclocking. It's got a little bit of headroom for thermals. Well, quite a lot of headroom actually. So I could probably squeeze out a little bit more performance, but not everybody's in that situation. So what I want to try to do is tweak things and get the best performance you can for everyone that has a stock setup, because your case might not be able to handle the increased thermals from overclocking your hardware. So let's reset this and try out AMD's FSR 2. Okay, we're back, back on the ground. Things look terrible. So I've disabled OpenXR completely. That way we can have that not impacting everything because we're using FSR2. And that's going to be doing our upscaling, so we don't have to limit the resolution. We wanted to use the full resolution of the Pimax and then upscale based off of that. Now you can use them in conjunction with each other. What it'll do is it'll set the 3500 by 4142 and then upscale to that resolution. But if you can get the performance out of it, you might as well upscale to the max resolution you can. So let's go ahead and see what we're sitting at just by itself here. 16 or 17. Now, I haven't done it yet, so let's go into the menu and enable that. So we go to settings, then VR, graphics. We're doing a lot of this. A lot of time in these menus here to try to get everything perfect. We are going to just tab over to AMD FSR 2. Keep everything else the same. And let's start with quality, and then I will go ahead and see what performance looks like, balance all those. We'll just step through them pretty quick while we're in the air. While we're in the air and see how much of a difference it has. Okay, it's not a whole lot better. I mean, it's better, but it's not great. So we're looking at 23 with quality. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to pick this up in the recording, but it's pretty bad. The shimmering is just, it's out of control. Every single thing that has a line, so all the buildings, the tower, all the lines on the runway, they're all shimmering. Looks pretty bad. And I know it's just going to get worse because quality is supposed to be the highest percentage. So I think it's like 67% for your render scale. And it's it's not good. Well, let's go ahead and try it anyway. Let's see how it looks with the other options here. Go back into here, and let's change this to, let's go to performance. Yep. Even worse. Like when you move the headset, everything shimmers. If you stay still, it looks okay. You have to stay still in one spot and keep perfectly steady, and then everything kind of softens up and looks good again. The second you move your head, the whole world just goes shimmery. Man. Okay, well, I'm going to hop in and take off because we're sitting at 30 on the ground here. And it looks great. Like as far as the quality or the smoothness of it, it looks a lot better. You know, when you move around, it's smooth. There's no stuttering. But I wouldn't be able to fly. I wouldn't be able to fly like this. I would definitely take the hit to frame rate to make everything look better. But let's go ahead and get in. I'm standing right next to it, so it should be pretty easy. Shift C. Got it first time. All right, pull this out. Stop. I got you. I understand. Quarter. Push those in and just go for it. Because we don't really care. And this guy's like, you didn't call clear prop. I'm gonna report you to the FAA. Where's my parking brake? There we go. All right, watch out for the wing, dude. Ooh, right by your face. Because he didn't care. He's like, you didn't warn me that you're starting it? I'm not moving. That's okay. That's okay, buddy. All right, just like before, rolling takeoff here. Because we just want to get in the air. This is, what this feels like to me is, I'm trying to turn with the yoke here. What this feels like to me is when you're using something like the Quest 3 and you have it set up wrong. So everything is shimmery because it's such low quality. It's like that real grainy, shimmery looking artifacting. Like everything inside the cockpit here looks great. All the gauges and everything, you can read it clear. But the second you look out, it looks like it has ice on it. It's like everything is covered in ice. Well, it looks a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, once you get up into the air, it gets a little bit better. Again, when you move your head, everything is real bad. But when you stop, it's not too bad. Oh, gear up. Flaps up. And then reduce this and let's trim out again to keep me flying straight so I can see what we're sitting at here. Okay, 33. Yeah, see this, it's completely flyable for the frame rates. If you can get past the artifacting, it's pretty smooth. Like it's not bad. These are not 4090 numbers, but not everyone can afford a 4090. So the 7900 XTX is, it's like the next best thing. If you can't get a 4090, it's pretty awesome. Those with the 4080 Supers, they have 4080 Supers, right? I believe the 7900 XTX is cheaper than a 4080 Super. I may be mistaken on that, but it's great. I know a lot of people get AMD just to get AMD because, you know, they believe in their gaming performance with their processors and they like to pair the two together, which I have done. And I'll say they do work well together. And I really like AMD as a company, so kind of stand by them. But you can't beat the 4090, not yet. It's too good. It is too good. But for those of you who have chosen AMD, the path of AMD, it's not bad. Like, it looks great. And the Crystal Light is a very difficult headset to run. You need a lot of GPU to run this thing at its rated resolution, at the top resolution. You can obviously scale it back, and you can use things like FSR to help out. But I feel like, specifically with the Crystal Light, I think we're going to get better results using their upscaling from the Play software. And I think that's because they sacrifice, their artifacting is usually by blurring things a little bit, so things get a little more blurred, but you don't get that shimmering effect. And I think that's going to be a little bit better for immersion. So now that we're up a little bit higher, running at 33 frames per second. It's not bad. That's smooth enough. I'd be happy with that flying around. So if you do have this GPU, you're doing pretty good if you're using FSR2, and this is on performance. So you're going to take a little bit more hit if you go down to quality, but I didn't really notice a difference between quality and performance as far as the artifacting. They both kind of look the same. They have that same, move slow, things look good, move fast, it goes all out of whack. So now what we have to do is restart, go back to where we're outside of the aircraft, and then I need to go out of VR, switch to the 90 hertz upscaled in the Pimax software, and then come back in. So I can't really record any of that. No point in it anyway. It's just clicking a button and then letting the headset restart. So I'm going to do that. I'll be right back, and let's see what Pimax has to offer for upscaling. Okay. Hear me out here. There's no shimmering. What? Okay. Wait. 3234 by 3826 is what it's rendering at. And it's hitting 30-ish. So 27. Yeah, okay, mid-20s then. Mid-20s while we're on the ground here. That's a pretty significant gain. And we're in TAA with all those settings that I had before. And it looks pretty, it looks pretty good. Let me get close to the Bonanza here. You can tell that everything is just a little less sharp, but it's really not bad. I can make out everything just like before. The signs, the markers and everything. Let's hop in and see how it looks inside. Oh, that was the wrong one. Shift. Nope. This one. There we go. Okay. Yes, gear, I know. Every time. Put that in. Put that in. Okay, so if you look at the gauges and everything, you're not going to be able to tell unless you actually have the headset on. But this is much better than FSR2. The shimmering is gone. There was always a little bit of, the little bit of shimmer on the buildings and everything, even with no upscaling in TAA. But this is much better. I think I might prefer it over no upscaling because it blurs things a little bit. It's not as super sharp. Sometimes you don't want that super sharpness. Now, inside the cockpit, you can definitely tell a difference, but it's not that bad. I can read all the gauges just fine. Everything's still really clear, but it is a little bit less than when you're not using upscaling. It was crystal clear, crystal light. Let's get this started and get up in the air and see what kind of performance improvement we get once we have taken off. Parking brake. Oh, sorry. You're going to go right through the wing. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Easy, easy where you're walking there. There you go. There we go. Good. Okay. Setting my flaps up there. Whoop, forgot how to control this thing. And that's a lot more smooth, that's for sure. It's not great, but for those of you that have the lower end graphics cards, or mid-range to lower end of the spectrum of graphics cards, using this Pimax upscaling is definitely an option. Oh, that was terrible. All right. Gear up, flaps up right away. Pull this back and then trim us out here. Whoa, 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 whoa. There we go. Yeah, when you're moving fast, still get the bars, but it is much, much better. We have to be in the 30s now. Check. Oh, so close. 28. I would expect that the higher that you get up, you know, the more smooth it's going to be. Clearly, that happens always. So once we reach a little bit higher here, we should start to see 30s, mid 30s. And that's pretty much what I was seeing in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know why I have to say MSFS 2020. I'm just going to say 2020. That's what I was seeing in 2020. It's a similar performance in VR with the 7900 XTX. I was getting about you know, upper 30s, low 40s, and it's definitely harder on the GPU for VR. So there may be optimization coming out, hopefully, and things get better as we go along. But as of right now, if you were running whatever hardware you had with 2020, if you were set up for 30, 40 frames per second in VR, it's going to be lower. You're going to have to do something to get those frames back. So now that we're up a little bit higher, let's see where we're at. Oh, right at 30. But visually, this is a pretty awesome option. It looks great. Like, you can barely tell that there is upscaling going on. Wow. It looks fantastic. Okay, so out of the options that you have right now, and there is no DirectX 11 or 12 now. We're all stuck on 12, whether you like it or not. So of the options that you have, TAA, FSR2, or the Pimax upscaling, which, you know, some of you aren't going to have if you're using a different headset. But if you are using the Crystal Light, you do have those three options then. And I would say that Pimax's upscaling is the better option over FSR2. Now you can see using FSR2, you are going to gain, but it is at a cost, and that's the shimmering, the artifacting that you see there. And that's pretty much going to do it for now. We're not going to mess with any other settings. Those settings that, oh yes, no, okay. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is take our settings, turn off the upscaling, all of it, go back to TAA, and tweak the settings and see what brings the FPS up enough to be smooth, to get to these levels, the 30s, the 40s, and up. I'm not going to mess around with it too much because I don't want this video to be too long, but let's go ahead and mess with some of the level of detail and render scale and see what it takes to push it up into those acceptable ranges. Probably 20-ish frames per second that we're looking at right now. We're on TAA with OpenXR running at 3500, 41, 42, and the optimized settings that I've carried over from 2020. And it looks pretty bad when you move around. Yeah, just below 20 frames a second. So what do we have to do to get that up? Let's head into the settings here, and then we will see what impacts it the most. We're not going to mess around with all the settings, just the big ones here, to try to get that up a little bit. So right off the bat, let's change our render scale down to 90. and then take our T-Lod. Let's keep it at 100. Let's see how that impacts it. All right. 21. Okay. Notice any difference? Because I can't at all. It still looks pretty awesome. Yeah. There is a little bit of shimmering. That's just part of the sim. So that didn't really impact it much. Yeah, 20. You look at the plane, 20. As you go up more, 23. Okay. So I think we can reduce that a little bit further. Let's bring that down to 80. Oh, 75. You also have object level of detail. Let's bring that down as well. 75, and then bring this down to 80 or 75. That's fine. How does it look? Again, you can't really tell the difference. Let's just reset everything just to make sure that it's good. And then back in. Yeah, it still looks pretty great. How much did we gain here? Yeah, I would say that at 30 is acceptable. Let's take off and see what we can get here. Inside the plane, of course. That's how you fly, right? Shift C. There we go. All right. How are we looking here? The gauges and everything. Yeah, see, everything looks fine. It looks great. It kind of looks like upscaling is on. And once you have the glass here that you're looking through with all of its imperfections there to distract you, it still looks great when you look outside. Yeah. And this headset's fantastic even at the lower rendered resolutions. Let's start this up and take off and see what kind of frame rates we can get once we get up to the higher areas. Here we go. That is a start. And that, and go for it. Nobody to smack into this time. That's nice. There we go. Like, you can tell a little bit that your render scale is lower, but it's not, I mean, it's not that noticeable. And like, let's say you saved up enough to get the Pimax Crystal Light. Great job, great headset. But you haven't saved up enough to get the graphics card to push that many frames that it needs to use it at its full potential there. Well, then you can definitely lower a lot of these settings and it'll still look pretty good. Like, because the optics and the displays in this headset are just, they're really great no matter what. Even if you're using a lower render scale. Oh, sorry, I'm taking off this way. You're taking off that way. That sounded pretty cool. All right, flaps up again. Try to get some altitude here and see what we're looking at for frame rates. go. Let it climb here. Yeah, so 33. It still looks great. Like, you can't really tell. I can't really tell a difference between it. No, I haven't spent a lot of time in both to be able to compare them, but initial impressions, it looks fine. It really looks fine. If you're waiting for like the 50 series to come out, or maybe for some of the other GPUs to come down in value before you pick one up, like a 4080 or 4090, just lower the resolution down a little bit. Get that good headset so you have the good displays, and lower down your resolution, your render resolution, your level of detail. It's still going to look incredible. And now that we've got some altitude, let's see what we're sitting at here. 35, 34, 33. All right, so it can hit 35. It looks great. All right, so hopefully this provided you guys some insight into using VR with MSFS 2024 and AMD systems, the 7900 XTX. It was definitely informative for me. Learned a lot here. And there's more to come because there is a lot of things that you can do to tweak to get the best performance possible from the sim in VR. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of updates coming out and optimization, little tweaks that they do to make things run just a little bit better. That's probably going to be one of the first things that they address is VR performance. Hopefully. And hopefully that comes soon. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.